Hey golfers, have you ever stood over a chip around the green only to chunk it, skull it, or watch it sail way past the hole? If you're like 95% of players out there, you're probably making one massive mistake that's wrecking your short game and your scores. But don't worry, today, I'm exposing the top 5 chipping blunders that sabotage our rounds. From ditching those risky flop shots for reliable low chips to swapping your lob wedge on that upslope lie for a pitching wedge, we'll tackle finessing out of the rough without getting too cute, and why putting from the fringe beats chipping from the fringe every single time. Stick around, because these simple fixes will sharpen your decision making, getting you up and down more often and dropping your scores fast. It's time to turn you into a short game master. Let's dive in.
Hitting the ball out of the sand, it's difficult. There's actually some strategies based on how much sand is behind your ball. Sometimes when we hit it in the sand, depending on the course we play, it might be very fluffy. And then in other times, kind of like it is now, it's not as fluffy and there's not too much sand behind my ball. When there's not too much sand behind the ball, you can hit like 1 inch or 2 inches behind it. When it's just sitting up and there's like no sand behind your ball, it's not fluffy at all, you want to hit farther behind the ball, so like 2 inches or 3 inches. So I'm going to demonstrate some examples. Right here is kind of a standard bunker shot. I like to get a nice wide stance, open up the club face just a little bit slightly, and then make sure that I accelerate through. That was pretty good, Josiah, wouldn't you say? But you can see by the divot here that I hit about 2 inches behind the ball. My goal when I'm hitting out of the sand is that the sand always gets out of the bunker. So you could actually do a drill. I learned this from KJ Choi. He talks about how you just want to practice getting the sand to go out of the bunker. So in these cases, my ball is going to be pushed out of the sand from that sand that I'm hitting. You see in this area right here, there's not that much sand. This is a little bit different texture. So when the sand's real fluffy, you want to hit closer to the ball. But in this situation, because there's not really any sand behind the ball, if I hit 1 inch behind the ball, I could kind of hit the ball real clean and go way over the green. So what I want to be mindful here, and you can't ground your club on the course, but I'm going to try to hit like 2 to 3 inches behind the ball here and give myself more sand to push out there. Be good, baby. Oh yeah, look at that. So in both those cases, I got the sand out in one try. Not all sand shots are equal. Pay attention to how much sand is behind your ball. And if there's a lot, hit closer to the ball. And if there's no sand or very minimal sand, aim a little bit farther back, maybe like 2.5 inches. One gigantic chipping mistake that can really be costing our scores is when you're chipping and it's upslope. When you're kind of on an uphill lie, if you hit a lob wedge, you're more than likely gonna chunk it or kind of dig into the grass. Your ball's already gonna go lofted pretty high. So folks will be like, I'm gonna hit a little flop shot here, and then the 60-degree wedge, it just gets dug into the hill, or you just chunk it really bad. So don't try this at home, but this is what happens, right? Oh man, you're looking around to see if your friends saw. That's not what you wanna do. Instead, grab a pitching wedge, a gap wedge, hit a controlled shot. It's gonna go lower, but it's gonna be more controlled. My rule of thumb, and I'm a 4 handicap, is I never wanna have a double chip. When I'm chipping, I don't want my next shot to be a chip. I want my next shot to be a putt. I'm gonna take this controlled chip here. It's not a flop shot. I'm just gonna try and knock it out there on the green. Just like that. Much better result. So it wasn't perfect. I got a putt at par. It didn't have this result of getting dug into the upslope or chunking it. The 60-degree lob wedge, the pros make it look easy, but you have to know when to use your 60 degree and when to leave it in the bag. Anytime you're chipping and it's uphill like this, forget about it. Don't be using your lob wedge to chip like that. If you've been enjoying the content, I want to encourage you to please smash that subscribe button. We have so many folks you're watching, but you're not subscribed. And if you're finding value from our content, please subscribe. Now, I have a big question for you. If you are on the fringe right here, would you chip it or would you putt it? Here's the rule of thumb. Your worst putt is gonna be better than your worst chip. If you chip from the fringe, you could do what my friend did, where he did one of these. That was pretty bad. So if I would have putt this, even if I putted it bad, the bad putt's still gonna be better result than this. And then the other problem is when we chip it from the fringe all the time, we could do one of these blades where, oh no, it goes way too far. The room for error on a chip is that you could really screw it up. Now the problem is we're really satisfied when we chip it in or have a really good chip. Those aren't as common as they are for the pros. Let's putt them both and let's chip them both and see what the better result is. Even if I don't hit a good putt, it's still gonna turn out okay. All right, that was an easy up and down. Could I theoretically have chipped it that close? Yes, but I could have also chunked my chip, or I could have bladed it over the green, and a bad putt is still gonna do better. That's why you should putt from the fringe in most circumstances. Okay, so I did 2 putts and I had 2 pars. I'd like to think I'm a pretty good chipper, so I'm gonna see if I can do better chipping. So far, that's the 3rd farthest away. The other 2 putts were closer. Well, how about that? That's why people chip from the fringe. Now you're thinking I'm all that in a bag of chips because I chipped in. Back to the reality is, if I would have hit a bad chip and I would have hit a bad putt, the bad putt would be better than the bad chip. Okay, when should you chip it from the fringe? If there's something when you're putting it in the way, then by all means chip it. So if I was right here and I would putt it, I'd be putting it over a sprinkler head in mud. So I wouldn't want to do that. So it would be the proper play here to chip it because this is in my line of path of the putt. So that would be the play there when you would chip. But I would say 9 out of 10 times, if your ball's like this on the fringe, grab your putter and just putt it. Your likelihood of success is going to be a lot better. One of the biggest mistakes that I noticed as a golf caddy, I blame Tiger Woods for this. So Tiger Woods, he takes golf by a storm, and he had this flop shot that he would do where he'd take a 60-degree wedge and he would just flop it in the air and it would land soft, and then you watch that on TV, and then you get out to the golf course and basically any chance you get, you're grabbing the 60 and you hit one like that. That was a pretty good shot. And so you're thinking, that's my play from there. But a lot could go wrong by hitting a flop shot when it's not necessary. The only time you really need to necessarily hit it, like if there's a bunker that you got to go over, or there's like an extreme circumstance, then maybe you want to hit the flop shot. The problem with the flop shot is your go-to shot is there's a lot that can go wrong. You can chunk it or you could blade it over the green. You're lining up for the flop shot. Oh, that one was pretty good too. My example here is really extreme because we're short-sighted and there's not much green to work with, and it's very tempting to hit the flop shot. And both of those are actually pretty good flop shots. I can really screw up a flop shot, but those were actually pretty good. So here I'm gonna try a different shot. I'm gonna try a low controlled chip. But here I'm actually gonna use a 52-degree choke down and whatnot, and just try to hit a nice controlled chip that's nice and low, and it's gonna hopefully have a good result. Just like that. Go in, please. Woo. Okay, that was the proper shot to play from there. That was absolutely money. It's kind of scientific, but if you think about nice, low, and controlled, that's gonna have a better result over a larger sample size than the high flop shot. Because the high flop shot, you shank it, you could hit it off here and blade it over, or you could chunk it. There's so much that could go wrong with the flop shot. But that low controlled chip that I just did was a masterpiece. Forget the flop shot unless it's an absolute necessary situation, and get better around the greens with chipping with your 52-degree or whatever you feel like you could hit a nice low and controlled chip. Now, I want to show you the toe down chipping method. It's not something that I personally do all that often, but if you're more of a beginner golfer and you really want to get good at chipping, this is what they call toe down chipping. So you're gonna pretend you're putting it and you're gonna hit the ball off the toe. Very little could go wrong here. The ball's on the toe of the club and you're literally gonna putt it, like you're gonna take a putting stroke. And very little can go wrong with that method. It's just gonna be a nice low controlled shot. Hopefully I persuaded you as someone who's caddied for over 10 years and have seen the most atrocious flop shots. Don't let that be your story. Do a nice low controlled chip instead. One of the biggest chipping mistakes that I used to make all the time is when you're in the rough, you try to finesse it and hit this highlight reel shot, and instead you end up doing what I call a double chip. When I'm chipping, I have a goal that my next shot is not a chip, but my next shot is a putt, or I'm picking the ball up out of the hole, but I don't want my next shot to be a chip. Here's what I mean by a finesse shot. You got a bunker right here. You got not that much green to work with. And then you got the pin right there. Finessing it would be, I'm gonna try to hit this nice flop shot. I'm gonna try to land it up there right by the hole, and let's see what happens. Oh man. Now I got a double chip because I tried to be Tiger Woods. I'm not worried about getting a par at this point. I got kind of a bad lie in the rough. The fast part of the green here is actually right of the pin. Take my medicine and not have a double chip. There we go. That should kick left, and I should have about 20 footer for my par putt. I hit another one previously that I tried to hit the finesse hero shot. Or I could have left it in the bunker. I could have bladed it over. By playing the smart shot here, I got about 15 feet for my par. I'm either gonna get a par or I'm gonna get a bogey, but I don't have a double chip. Come on down the hill. Took our medicine, chipped it to the fat part of the green, 2-putted, and we had no blow up hole. I hope these chipping tips will help you be better around the greens. It starts with discipline and selecting the right club and aiming to the correct spot on the green, and then it just takes practice. I love practicing chipping with my 52, that low controlled chip. At the end of the day, so much of our score is dictated with what we do around the fringe, what we do around the green, what we do 30 yards and in. And there's been so many times I've done double chips because I made a bad club selection, or I aimed to the wrong spot on the green, and that's gonna make our scores go higher. So if you wanna shave your scores, become a better golfer, learn how to chip, selecting the right club and chipping shot around the green, and then practice that chipping. I promise you, it's made a big difference in my game, and it can help you as well. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, please smash that subscribe button. Turn the bell on. We've been making consistent content and plan to continue doing that. Love to have you on the journey. If you're trying to become a better golfer, you're in the right place. Thanks for watching. Hope to catch you on the next one.